Welcome again to the Old Principal 老校长的节目。我就是老校长。I am the old principal, and we're going to have another story today. Now, today's story is number 25, Searching for Wood. You know what this is? We call this firewood. 烧木材用的, okay? This is firewood. Now, I'm going to tell you a story. Actually, I think that we'll end up with a couple stories about this. So, without any more waiting, let's listen to the story as Mrs. Ash reads it to us.
Number 25, Searching for Wood. The United States Forest Service controls all the forested public lands. It has many rules to regulate the gathering of firewood by the public. Everyone who wants to gather firewood must first purchase a permit. Of course, all the rules are included in the permit, so no one can claim ignorance as an excuse. The most important rule is this: no live tree can be chopped down. That simply means only dead trees can be used for firewood. But that isn't hard because the harsh winters always kill plenty enough to supply all the wood gatherers. We traveled high into the inner mountains to find good wood. The more accessible and closer areas were well picked over. My friend and teaching colleague, Ray Cummings, was very experienced in locating good firewood. He taught me the different kinds of trees and told me how each kind of wood burnt differently. He also taught me how to find good firewood, even in areas that other people had apparently picked over. Besides many trees that had already fallen over, we always found some dead trees that were still standing. Ray taught me how to fall a tree. First of all, if the tree was straight and not leaning, we needed to determine what direction we wanted the tree to fall. Using our chainsaws, we cut a large notch out halfway into the tree. The tree will fall the same direction as the notch. Then, after everybody has moved to a safe distance, the tree is cut on the back side of the notch. As it begins to fall, the woodsman yells, "Timber!" as he takes his chainsaw and runs away. Falling a tree is fun, but then the wood must be chopped up into pieces. All the wood is cut into 18-inch lengths and split later. But whether the pieces were large or small, they all had to be rolled or carried to the truck, and that was hard work.
Welcome back. Are you ready to go? The United States Forest Service controls all the forested public lands. Well, I should say controls most of the forested public lands. Now, 这个是国家的United States 美国国家 Forest Service 林业局林业部. Now, of course, 部 is much bigger and 局 is much smaller, but probably it's easier to keep in mind, easier for me to say, I should say, 林业局. Okay, now, it says it controls, okay, all of the forested public lands. Well, that's not quite right. Most of the forested lands, or a lot of the forested lands, public lands. So, public means 公家的政府的 public lands. The Forest Service then controls 有管 So forested, a forest, of course, is 森林, right? So forested meaning could be a verb. That means that there are forests on these public lands. Going on, it has many rules to regulate the gathering of firewood by the public. Has many rules, 很多规矩, okay, to regulate, 规范, 规范, or to control, okay, the gathering, 收集, firewood by the public, okay, 大家,公众的,大家的, 这收集烧木材的, okay, 木材, okay. So there are many, many rules. And so I'm going to go in a little bit of detail about this and my own personal experience going on. Everyone who wants to gather firewood must first purchase a permit. As with many things in life, you have to have a permit, 许可证. So you have to purchase this, and it's not too expensive. Everyone who wants to gather firewood, 收集, must first purchase, 先要买这个许可证. Going on. Of course, all of the rules are included in the permit. So no one can claim ignorance as an excuse. Let's take a look at this. All of the rules, okay, all of the rules, 所有的规定等等, 规矩等等, okay, are included in the permit. Actually, if you want to know, they're all written on the back side of the permit. 都是在这个许可证后面都写一条一条的. Okay, so no one can claim ignorance. Lol, I tell you, many, many people, when they go, well, let's say that a policeman stops them, or somebody from the Forest Service stops them, they say, well, I didn't know. 我不知道. Okay, ignorance, 这个无知, 不知道. See, no one can claim, no one can say, hey, I don't know. It's not, I didn't know. If you have the permit, then you have the rules. And of course, the responsibility is you must what? Read the rules. So that nobody can claim ignorance 作为这个借口, because he does have the rules. He just didn't read them. Or he 故意的, he on purpose broke the rules. Now that's possible too. Going on. The most important rule is this. 最重要的规矩是 this one. No live tree can be chopped down. You cannot chop down a live tree. 火树, okay, 火的树. You cannot chop down. Chop 就是砍下来. Nowadays we use 电锯, chainsaw, but we still use the word chop. Chop meaning that you have a 斧头 and you cut it down. We still use the word chop, even though most people use chainsaw, 电锯, okay? So no live tree can be chopped down. 砍下来。That simply means only dead trees can be used for firewood. 简单的来说 only dead trees. 这个是死树，已经死的树，能够用作为烧木材的木材。Okay, now with that in mind, one probably asks the question, wow, but only dead trees. Are there enough dead trees going on? But that isn't hard. It isn't hard. 一点都不难 because of the harsh winters always kill plenty enough to supply the wood gatherers. Several words here. What do we mean by harsh winters? Harsh winters, okay, 很严寒的这个冬天呢 very cold, very cold. Always kill. Okay, 都会杀一些 plenty enough. Plenty enough, 足够 okay, 足够 plenty okay, to supply. Now, normally, supply gives the idea of 供应, and you could translate that 供应, or you could translate, and I like the translation, 能够满足 okay, 满足 all the wood gathers, 所有要去收集这个木材的这些人 okay, so supply, that means 能够满足他们的所需要的 okay, we traveled high into the inner mountains to find good wood. Okay, so we traveled, 我们坐车 okay, high in the inner mountains, 到一个高高的深山里 See the word inner mountains? So you have to go in the mountains. In. 深山里在深山里 to find good wood. Okay, so well, let's put it this way. There's good wood, and there's not so good wood. So we had to go into the inner mountains to find the good wood. The more accessible and closer the areas were, well picked over. Now there's a couple words here that we need. The more accessible. What does accessible mean? Accessible means 最容易跑到某一个地方. If it's accessible, that means it's easy to get to. It's easy to go to it. That's accessible. Accessible and closer areas. Of course, when you say accessible and closer, of course, that's easiest. You don't have to go so far away, right? These 这些地区 were well picked over. Now, what does pick mean? Okay, sometimes it means 挑选. Okay, pick has many meanings, but here it's a little bit different. So let's take a look at it. It says the accessible and closer areas were well picked over. Now, well picked over means that many people had gone there. Many people had gathered the 收集木材. So there was less there. To be picked over. In fact, if you are picking strawberries, and 如果你是摘草莓 and somebody says 这排是 already picked over, it means somebody has already been there to do it, to pick. In this case, picked over means somebody has already gone there and already found the good wood, and they've already taken the good wood. So it's not the wood that's left, 剩下的这个木材不是最好的, okay? So it's well picked over. We'll come to this word again here. Go ahead. My friend and teaching colleague, Ray Cummings, was very experienced in locating good firewood. This is my friend, 我的朋友, and teaching college, 这个同事, 教书的同事. His name was Ray Cummings. The students just called him C. His last name began with C, so the students just called him C, Mr. Cummings. He was very experienced, 经验很丰富 in locating good firewood, 在寻找好木材. Okay, so he's a very, very experienced. I had no experience at that point. Going on. He taught me the different kinds of trees and told me how each kind of wood burnt differently. Okay, there are many 很多不同的这个种类, okay, different kinds of trees, and each tree or the wood of each tree burned differently. 烧起来的时候就也不同啊. Like you have pine trees, 松树, okay, they burn fast. And then some of it, like tamarack, they burn slow. Of course, you don't have to remember all of that going on. So he also taught me how to find good firewood. Even in the areas, okay, picked over, okay, going on. Okay. Besides the many trees that had already fallen over, we always found some dead trees that were still standing. Okay, remember, we can only pick dead trees. Many trees had already fallen over. 已经倒下来了. We always found some dead trees that were still standing. The trees were dead, but they were standing. They were standing. They had not fallen over. Going on. Ray taught me how to fall a tree. Okay, now, this is interesting. The word fall would be, well, fall actually has several meanings, doesn't it? 掉下来 or 倒下来. But in this case, fall is a 动词. Okay? And to fall a tree means to 砍下来. 砍下来. Going on. First of all, if the tree was straight and not leaning, we needed to determine what direction we wanted the tree to fall. 第一件事, if the tree was straight, 是直直的, 没有任何一个斜度, leaning, 一点都不斜, 是直直的, we needed to determine, that means we had to make a decision what direction we wanted the tree to fall. Okay? So we had to decide 这个方向要倒下来 的一个方向。Now this is important going on. Using our chainsaws. Chainsaw? What is a chainsaw? A chainsaw is 电锯. 电锯 has a little motor on it, and it makes the chain go around, and it cuts the trees. We cut a large notch out halfway into the tree. Okay, so here you have the tree up here, and then we cut a notch. 就切了一个锯成一个缺口. Okay, so we 一个缺口. Why? Because that's the direction that it will fall. Okay, so we cut a large notch, 一个缺口，一个口子, okay, out of halfway into the tree. So it's still, the tree is still standing, but it's much weaker now, of course, because we've already cut this notch in the tree. The tree will fall the same direction as the notch. So if I want the tree to fall that way, then I'm going to have to cut my notch here, you see. So, and that means that the tree will fall that direction. Going on. Then, after everybody has moved to a safe distance, 走到一个比较远安全的地方, because the tree goes, it's going to fall down. What's going to happen? The tree is cut on the backside. 这个缺口后面 you cut the tree. Now, sometimes we actually used a rope to tie around the tree just to make sure that it was going to fall the right direction. Okay, going on. As it begins to fall, the woodsman, that is the person who's cutting down the tree, he yells, "Timber!" as he takes his chainsaw and runs away. Timber, of course, timber is 木头 or 木材, but in this case, timber has a special meaning. It simply means the tree is falling. Get out of the way. Timber. Okay, he takes his chainsaw. As it starts to fall, of course, it loosens up, and he takes his chainsaw and he runs back. He runs back and runs away so that when it falls down, he won't be hurt. Going on. Falling a tree is fun, but then the wood must be chopped up into pieces. Falling a tree, remember what I said about falling? Falling means cutting down, 砍一棵树, okay? Even though it's a dead one, is fun. It's fun to see the power of this thing falling down, okay? But then the wood must be chopped up. 必须锯成一块一块一段一段的, okay? So you must chop it up into pieces. All the wood is cut into 18-inch lengths. All the wood is cut into 18-inch lengths. So, 锯成这个长度是锯成18英寸, just about this much. Okay, all of them is later. Okay, and we will split them. 要这个劈开啊, we will do that later. So right now we just have this big round piece of wood, and we will take that home, and then we will chop it up later. Going on. But whether the pieces were large or small, they all had to be rolled or carried to the truck, and that was hard work. Okay, so no matter how big the pieces were, large or small, some of them were really quite large, they all had to be rolled. Of course, 它们是圆的，对不对？所以你可以让它滚过去 okay, roll it, okay, 推它 okay, or carry. Sometimes we had to carry. Now that was hard, okay, to the truck. We had a little truck, 这个小货车, and that was hard work. 很费功夫. It was, it's hard work carrying or rolling this wood. And then when you get to the truck, what happens? You have to lift it up. Sometimes it's too heavy. So have to have one or two people to help lift it up. Okay, with that, we've come to this, the end of this lesson. We will look at this one more time. I'll tell you a little bit more about this. Why are we gathering wood? It's probably best to remind ourselves that the reason we gather wood is to save money, because we can burn the wood and we don't have to use electricity. 要省这个电费. Okay, with that, we'll tell more about the story, but for right now, here's our email address. Our email address is theoldprinciple@gmail.com. Theoldprinciple@gmail.com. And we have a website, www.theoldprinciple.org. Hey, it's been great to have you, and I hope that you will join us next time for another interesting lesson. Till then, bye-bye.